develop throughout your organization, having them understand exactly what engagement is about, the role they play in the whole engagement scheme. It's not just the organization that comes back and our scores were very low. Well, that comes back down to every manager.
Welcome. If it's Friday, it's the CEO series. Our guest today is Dorota Walters, founder and CEO of Talent Solutions International. She's also a colleague of mine with the Human Capital Institute, where she's a faculty member. Her strategic HR talent management expertise was gathered through working in 19 countries, 5 continents, and a whole host of industries from hospitality, food and beverage, banking, investment banking, and construction. She's led large projects in mergers and acquisitions, transformation, culture change, global organizational expansion, as well as small internal structure improvement for SMEs. She spent almost 14 years in the Middle East working for Citibank, Abu Dhabi Investment Council, Hilti, and Lutha Holdings. With that, I welcome you. Dorota, how are you?
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this. We've been talking about this for a while, so I'm glad to have you here and talk through your journey. The title for our topic today is "A Journey from Corporate Professional to Entrepreneur." And I noted when you left here, your thought was corporate and on the entrepreneurial side, and you chose the entrepreneurial side. So I want you to kind of walk us through that transition from corporate executive to being an entrepreneur and guiding companies, focusing on startups. Talk to us about that transition.
Yeah, there was a lot of moving targets, and it was really challenging for me to get my mind clear and decide what do I really want and how do I want to put all these pieces together. But as usual in those situations, life helped, and there was an opportunity, presenting itself, and I decided that if not now, then when. Yeah. So between the corporate and the entrepreneurial life, the choice was quite easy because I was always looking at consultants and individual trainers and coaches, and I was kind of envious, and I was thinking, these guys have a life that I want.
Yeah, it seems that way, right?
Yeah, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? So I was always thinking about it because not that material side and the you are your own boss kind of a theme, but you get to do what you truly love and what you really, really are passionate about, and only that. In corporate jobs, if you do well, and if you get the right choices for yourself, then you still end up doing stuff that is not really that exciting, and you still have to accept the parts of the job that are not really your choice. But you have to do, as an entrepreneur, you get to do what you truly love, and you can do it whenever you want, wherever you want, and however you please. There's always a room in the market for everybody to create his or her own job. So that's how I decided to jump and do my own consulting, training, and developing leaders to help them see the true leadership colors, see the challenges and the benefits and the pleasure of being a great leader, and hopefully also help their companies grow. I personally believe that the company will not grow unless have a great leader and have a leader that can build a team. So I wanted to have my contribution to that part of young and growing business. So yeah, that was my thinking process, and eventually I had to take some action, and I did. Here I am.
Yeah. You know, you just said if not now, then when?
Mm.
That's a very important statement because even if you look at COVID, people may be out of work now and they may have harbored those kind of aspirations to do certain things. And it comes to that crossroad. And you kind of summed it up in that phrase, if not now, then when do you do it? So now you're working with startups.
Yes.
You advise a lot of startups, you know, throughout Europe and across the world.
Mm.
What is
Yeah.
your takeaway from going to focus on startups as opposed to focusing on a large organization trying to come in and consult? You
Mhm.
know, looking at those two dynamics.
Mm.
What caused the
Yeah.
focus on startups?
Well, I okay. I'm just gonna go from the top. I want to change the world. I want to make the world a better place.
Okay.
And I think that if I work with the large organizations and try to change the leaders and try to change their way of doing business,
Yeah.
my chances are rather slim.
Yeah.
So if I start working with the greatest talent of the current population and the generation that is building businesses now, and help them become, you know, ethical and smart leaders, then the future of this world looks better. And I will be very happy to be able to say that I had my contribution to that.
Hmm. So in working with entrepreneurs, that's kind of a different mindset of people that will come to the you know, if not now then when, and then they go out and do this. Are there any particular insights that you pull away from that when you looked at an entrepreneur versus a seasoned, say, manager who was structured inside of an organization?
Oh yeah, plenty. This is something I could probably talk until tomorrow. Although I don't have a long experience of doing that. It's only 2.5 years now. But I've met plenty of young, fantastic people, and while they're all significantly different and they all have fantastic ideas and they want to grow businesses in different areas, they all have similar, you know, a few things in common. And one of them is that, which is great, they have incredible belief in themselves and they have incredible, you know, level of energy to keep trying and to keep moving towards their dreams and making things happen in a very unorthodox way. They actually have the nerve to try something that nobody else has done before. So this is wonderful. But what most of them, not all, but what most of them tend to forget is that when your business grows, and if it's a good idea, if it's a good business, it will grow fast. If your business grows, you will very soon hit the point where you have to start hiring experts. You have to start hiring people that will really lead, not only do what you tell them to do, but will take a piece of that leadership, you know, role in your organization, and that you will have to trust them and you will have to let go of some control. And that is the difficult part for them because they never had a chance to really learn it from anyone. Corporations do that. Corporations train supervisors, managers, leaders, you know, executives on different levels of leadership. In an entrepreneurial world, there is no such thing as, you know, mandatory training that you have to go through as soon as you got a team to manage. So these people, again, they jump in that deep water and they manage by intuition. Some of them have great intuition and they're successful, but unfortunately, leadership is not that straightforward, and managing people sometimes is counterintuitive. There's so much information on internet. There's so many books, and depending on which book they choose to read, what, you know, course they decide to take online, they believe that they've got it, you know, and unfortunately, it's not that simple. The road to becoming a proper leader is a little bit longer, and it's a road of constant learning, and they don't have the patience to continuously work on their development on that side. And that's unfortunately why a lot of startups and young entrepreneurial enterprises fail. Actually,
You know,
there is
go ahead.
there's a statistics done by HBR saying that out of the 99% of startups that fail, because that's how high it is, the rate of failures in startups, 75% of those that fail actually fail because of the poor leadership skills or poor skills in the management team of those startups. That's scary.
Well, it is scary, but you know what? I kind of make the transition sometimes when I look at corporate and I look at somebody that owns their own business. So in an organization, if you go from a subject matter expert and then you're managing a team of subject matter experts, sometimes that's lost in translation. And if the people you're managing falter, you want to step right in to do that. So if I look at an entrepreneur, you've got to be willing to let go of something if you're not good at it. That's one of the things I've learned, is that if I'm not good at the capability of doing these kind of webinars, I find someone, and thank you so much, Ade, who's listening in, I was able to find someone that can handle it, and I don't have to deal with it. Just show me where to I need to be and how to do that. Is that a hard sell for a leader that's everything they've touched has turned to gold and it's just working and working? When do you advise them to say you need to bring someone else in to, say, manage a process?
Yeah. Probably the best time for them. And I actually don't convince them. If I go and I say, you need to do this, you need to do that, they tell me, to go away. But I usually get interest from people who want to scale, who want to grow their team, who want to hire people abroad because they want to, broaden their scope. They want to go into international scope of the business. And then they realized that, there was one case, maybe second case of failure in hiring the right person. And then they become humble and they say, look, I had one client who told me, I've gone through 3 marketing directors and I'm scared to start hiring the 4th one. Can you please help me? Another one said, look, I've hired 20 people. I have no problem. And, I can grow by myself. I said, yeah, hiring is easy. That's not the point. I'm not saying that hiring is difficult. Anybody can hire. You go for a coffee, you have a nice chat, you like the guy, you offer him a job, he starts, you start paying your money to this guy. And then half a year later, you realize that this is not the right person. He doesn't have the skill. He doesn't perform. You're frustrated. You are not happy with, the results that your company suddenly is not delivering. That was not the guy's problem. If you want to find the problem, look in the mirror. So let's go back to the square one and let's hire the right person, because hiring right is a skill.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a journey to convince startups who believe in themselves and they think they can do it, to actually make them understand and realize at what point they should start looking for help.
So what the conversation we're having is around talent. So making sure we have the right people in place that's going to grow the business and giving them the trust to run it, as opposed to sticking fingers in it all the time.
Yes.
That's what you're saying, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. I read a fantastic book recently. It's not a new book, but it's really inspiring. It's called Turn the Ship Around. I was bragging about it on LinkedIn. It basically is an example of, accomplishing the mission impossible through a completely unorthodox way of leading people, which means completely forgetting the command and control, style, and making your team members feel that they are also leaders, and converting the conversations between people in your team on the level of leader to leader, so that they are partners, they understand their responsibilities, they take full responsibilities for the areas of their expertise, and they talk to the owner, to the boss, to the top leader, whatever you want to call them, also from the position of, I'm leading my part and I intend to do this and this and that. What do you think? So it's this collaborative and this consultative communication style that also supports the ability to make decisions by everybody in the team, and supports the leader in trusting them and letting go of that control. It's really fantastic.
Mm. You know, one of the things you're talking about leaders making the transition from coming from corporate and going to starting a business. Do you think that at least with your clients, that they had no idea what they were getting into? Because you mentioned it in your intro, you said that you were always envious of these people who were doing what they appeared to be wanting to do. And I think that's a dream that everybody has. I want to work for myself, but I always say you have no idea what it takes to make that work.
Yes.
Do you think that happens a lot for people who
yeah.
start from the other side and you realize that, oh my God?
Oh yeah, it's a huge transition. It is a huge transition, and it's not easy for so many reasons that I can't even start describing. But the most important one is the mindset. It's the way of thinking, looking at yourself and measuring, the goals or the targets that you are putting in front of yourself with the right stick. For me, it was difficult. But first, coming back to your question, do I meet a lot of these people? Actually, no. I deal mostly with those who tried to find a job after school, after graduation. They couldn't find the right job for themselves. They couldn't fit anywhere. So they decided that they will start their own company doing what they want. So these people were very clear and very self-aware already at the very early stage. And that's what gives them the energy. That's why most of them will succeed. However, there are people who are going through the same transition as I did go through, or you did as well. But there's fewer of them, because those people actually go through that transition only when something traumatic happens in their life, when they lose the job, when they have to move countries, when they are in a situation when there is no other option, or when they really, really want it so bad and they have prepared for it for years, and then they make the jump. However, I noticed that all of us who have had the life, the comfortable life in corporate, when you go to the entrepreneurial side, we still all go through the shock of having to think in a different way, having to look at ourselves in a different way, learn how to work in a different way, distribute our energy in a different way, and basically living a completely different lifestyle.
Yeah. There's a graphic online. It's called the Iceberg theory of success. And I was sitting in my office one day and I saw that and I printed it out and I put it on the desk. And what it basically says, it shows an iceberg in the water. And an iceberg, it could be 50 times larger under the water. So what you see is the iceberg. So it says success, and then it says late nights, constant worry, and all the things that go under that. And that's a perfect picture. So I have that on my desk right in front of me every day. So if I'm frustrated, I look at this and say, I've got to turn it around, because, all this goes along with this so-called thing of being an entrepreneur. And I think for a lot of people that say, I want to do my own thing, they don't have a real clue as to how much it goes into that. Because if you compare the two, 9 to 5 versus 20 hours a day. Yeah,
that's
salary versus standard salary, monthly salary, whatever it is, versus I don't take a salary this month. But on the flip side, you're happy and excited in what you're doing. Is that the transition to your side?
Absolutely. And it's very interesting to start digging and trying to figure out why do we have to work so much to make a living. And thank God this is usually, in line with our passion, so that we have the energy and the drive to continue working to the late nights. Because if you start trying to do the business in something that is not your passion, something that somebody advised you because it's a profitable business, he succeeded, she succeeded, go for it, you succeed too. I'm sorry, it's probably not going to work. You need to start doing business that you are truly passionate about, because otherwise you will drop dead by the time you get the first client.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And the other one is the way of looking at ourselves from the position of selling. Many people in corporate organizations never even touched the sales function. That was my case. I was never really in a sales function. Yes, as an HR professional, I always had to sell my ideas or sell, the concepts to the employees or to the management. But it's slightly different, way of selling. When you have to sell your services, sell how good the benefits are of your services, you are in a position that is very different from the positions that you had in a corporation with a big logo, a huge brand, powerful, contract behind you, and you suddenly feel that your knees are shaking, you are insecure, and the ability to perform with confidence and believing that you really can deliver the high quality product suddenly becomes a hard job itself. So that's what I noticed as a mindset. You just need to position yourself as a person who needs to sell without being salesy. That's another skill. Without pushing your skills, without pushing your products to customers, and simply encouraging to try something that is good for them.
I thought of LinkedIn. You'll see people connect, and then they'll say, I'm offering these services. We can do XYZ at the cheapest cost. Please click here to do a Zoom link, and we can spend a half hour talking through this. And sometimes I'm snarky, and I'll say, are you sending this to connect, or are you sending it for a business pitch? Because they shouldn't be together, and some people will come back and we'll have a conversation. I said, just change your pitch. If you want to connect, go on my website, see what I'm about, see what I'm doing, show me a flaw that you recognize, and you talk through from that. But if I did this for every LinkedIn invite, I wouldn't have time to work. Yeah,
exactly. And
so let me just follow up on one of the things you mentioned was, you talked about the knees shaking, the confidence level. The term for that is imposter syndrome. Yeah. And I always tell people, I said, everybody goes through that. I don't care who you are. There are times that kind of comes in. So you can be at a large conference and you're the next speaker and they're reading your bio and you're coming up next. You will always have those butterflies.
Absolutely.
You will never get away from not having that. I saw you when you did a presentation at the big HR conference here in Dubai, the last big one I think they had. And you were on the side, and everyone should have come up, and you came and you owned the stage, and you were just exuding confidence. I said, "Look at you, look at the way that you're doing."
Yeah, that's years of practice, but still, if you remember when we talked, I was nervous. My hands were sweaty, and I was very very insecure, because there is always this thought: what if somebody in the audience knows more about what I know? What if somebody asks me a question that I will not be able to answer? And this is exactly the same position that you're in every single day as an expert who is offering services to the clients. So it is challenging.
Yeah. So how do you overcome that? I mean, if we go back to the speaking thing, and you say your hands were pumped, your palms were sweaty. And if I'm standing on the side ready to go up, I'm starting with this. I have the butterflies, and I've done it 1,000 times. How do you overcome that you can feel that confidence level, coming up, rising to the top? What are your secrets?
Learn skills.
Okay.
Learn the skill and practice them every day. And for me, the skill that is the most important one is listening and asking, intelligent questions. Mm-hmm. Preparing for every client, for every conversation that you possibly might have. so that the client feels that he is in the right hands. He actually found a partner that he can work with, not somebody who came here to give me a speech or to give me instructions, because this is not what entrepreneurs and startup founders are looking for. They don't like to be told what to do. Nobody likes to be told what to do, but founders who are successful enough to start growing and think of scaling their businesses, they have a lot of accomplishments behind their belt already when they start talking to me. So my job, first of all, is to apply my listening skills, ask the right questions without pitching, without selling anything, because every single one of them is different and every single one of them has a different need. And if I don't listen and have the real genuine conversation with them before that, I will not be able to help them. So that was probably the first thing.
Okay. So COVID has, people have lost jobs. People are at jobs and they want to get out and they may be considering starting a business. What advice would you give them? Since you have a background in working with a lot of these people that did that, what advice would you give them to whether to make the move or not?
Start with soul searching. Start with your why, or start with figuring out what is your true passion.
Yeah.
So that when you start the business, when you try building your product, you will really have enough of that fuel in your body to keep you going through the first difficult, bumpy, few months, because it never happens overnight. When I was starting, I thought that I just sprinkle some, advertisements, some messages to my 5,000 people network, and everybody will be jumping at my offer because, I've done HR for 30 years, so I know so much. I have so much to offer to everybody. Why wouldn't anybody be interested in talking to me, right? And suddenly I did it. And guess what I heard back from them? Crickets. Exactly. There was absolutely nothing, no feedback, no response. So what I started doing is I started talking to people. I joined the business owners club here in my new country, because I also, I started my entrepreneurial journey in a new country where I knew nobody, when I didn't speak the language.
Yeah.
So it was triple crazy for me. So when you start talking to people, when you start listening, when you start, showing that you really know what you're talking about, then they start having time and attention for you. So that's the first thing. You need to display the passion and the skill and the ability to really, connect. And the next thing, after you really choose something that you know you can do very well because you're super passionate about it, and it, by the way, it doesn't have to be linked to the profession that you've been performing for the last God knows how long. I've seen people who switched from finance advisory to gardening, and they're doing fabulous work, because they said gardening was always my passion. I always have spent weekends or every free minute of my time with my roses, and I know everything about my garden. And now they're doing courses online and they're advising people how to run gardens. And guess what? COVID, lockdown, people are rushing to this guy asking for advice because there is nothing else to do than gardening, and he makes mega money right now. The other thing, after finding your passion and really, really starting it, is get your network of good advisors and friends. Going alone is not a good way. You really need that support network, and find people who have been there, have done that, who sincerely want to help you, and who will do it without asking to be paid. It's also a difficult step, because in the entrepreneurial world, everybody wants clients, everybody is happy to help you, but everybody wants to be paid. And it's difficult to create that network of people who will be willing to help you in the beginning, to give you that lift without sending you the bill the next morning. So it's important to prepare for that.
That's key because you're talking building relationships, so you send out the advisor, hey, I'm here, I'm doing this, and nothing comes back. So I tell people when they're talking about what they're planning to do, I said, and how are you going to get customers? Well, I have a large network. I said, let's look at this, but don't depend on that. What if that doesn't happen? What are you going to do, beyond that? So building that relationship with clients and it could be someone that you never thought would have been able to help you or use your services. The other point I wanted to make based on what you said was that, you talk to people, like you and I have like a monthly call. We check in and see what we're doing on this and that and the other. How can I help you? This kind of thing. And if you can build like what I call a board of advisors, that people are in the same situation you're in. We understand each other as we talk about these kinds of things. And it's important to do that because your plans that's laid out is not going to pan out for the most part.
No.
So the plan B.
Yeah. And C. You always have a plan B and plan C.
Yeah.
But also something that I've learned the hard way is that, after finding your passion and having some kind of idea about what your product or your services will be, you start working on it. And then you get completely swamped with work because you want to make that product perfect and you work on it and you work on it. And then you want to jump out again and sell it. Well, the strange thing, the counterintuitive thing for me to listen was that you don't work on your final product. You need to have some kind of skeleton, some kind of idea of what you will be offering to your ideal clients. But you need to put a lot more work in learning about your clients. First of all, finding where they are, because most of the cases, it is not going to be your ex-colleagues. The 5,000 people network from your, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, they are not going to be your clients. Wake up. Yeah. Find your real clients, where they are, who can possibly be interested in your services. Learn as much as possible about them. Get in touch. Get connected on LinkedIn, on Facebook, wherever, through friends. And then start working on the product that they have told you they might need. It is a completely different order than I thought would work for me. So that's another advice.
Yeah. So one of the things you just mentioned was the social aspect. And years ago, you may not have worried about that because you started a business, and whether it was a B2C storefront, whatever it is, but this whole social side has to be managed. To get specifically in starting up and getting your name out there. Can you talk a little about that, the socials? Because I know you're very active on all the channels and all.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to be active, on all the channels, but I'm also trying to be active on face-to-face and building, the real physical relationship with people who I know, who I am introduced to. And those are always the easiest and the most pleasant one for me. Because this naturally somehow, people, especially now with COVID, people are so thirsty for relationship and for some new ideas and learning and growing. So this goes easier when the opportunity comes. With the COVID lockdown, it's not so many opportunities. So in order to compensate for that, I am very active on mostly LinkedIn, and now I'm learning my steps about being active on Facebook and Instagram, because I am told, and the statistics confirm that even the most senior and the most posh executives of the best companies in the world, everybody's on Facebook anyway. And sooner or later, if you're there, if you are, showing your expertise and offering your high quality products, they might notice you. So how does it work? I put out a lot of articles, observations. I share my experiences, put posts, and ask for feedback. And whoever is keen and happy to give me feedback, share. I'm always, very intrigued and always follow up on that.
And I always share your product.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I always share, always comment, because we're all in this together. And the key point is that we all try and help each other. I've always operate it from the vantage point of karma. I help you, something's going to come by next week or whenever it is, it's going to kind of tie into the,
and vice versa. I love the articles that you post and the articles that you forward from the top, business schools, because this is something that you never can afford to stop. You always have to continue learning, continue updating yourself. I recently even posted that, one of the things that differentiates true leaders in the workplace is the thing that these guys always learn. They never stop looking for the news and new trends and the thing that can get them, the one step ahead of everybody else. And if you don't learn, if you think you already know everything, you will not learn anything. And therefore, your offer to people who do will be very, very weak.
Okay.
So
that is so important, because I call it the learning journey. And, my daughter told me her senior year in college, she said that she had been up a couple of nights, and she said, you know what, Dad, when I finish college and get a job, I will never pick up a book and study again. I'm worn out. And I paused for a second. I said, you know what? The learning starts when you get the job, when you want to get better at what you do. Yeah. So even today, and so I worked with a lot of companies with their HR departments in developing them. And I'm always surprised when I ask an HR audience, how many of you read the business section of the newspaper, of the news feed, whatever you use? And that's like a blank look, because they don't deal with that. But the part of your profession has to understand what's happening across your industry or whatever it is. And there should be books that you're reading. There should be articles that you're reading, because this whole journey about getting better at what you do, if you go into a client, you can reference an article you just read at HBR and talk about that article and relating to the situation at hand. So that the learning journey is extremely important, because it's a lifetime kind of thing. Do you think that's more for someone that's an entrepreneur? Because we work for a company, we do the same thing. Somebody says, I have 19 years experience. I said, no, you have 1 year experience and you're doing 18 years of the same thing. So how do we take it from there? And can you kind of talk to that from the vantage point of being the entrepreneur and how you have to read, study, analyze consistently?
I constantly do that, and this is another reason why my day starts at 7:30 and finishes at 12:30, sometimes 1:30 at night in the morning.
Welcome to the club.
So I read a lot. The more I read, the more I realize that there is so much more to read, and the more I realize also that I'm still missing so many skills that are necessary in today's world, business world, to survive. And that's definitely something that you cannot negotiate. You cannot remove it out of the equation in an entrepreneur's world. And perfect evidence to that was that I was talking to a very nice gentleman a few weeks ago, who was recommended to me as my potential client, and I was recommended to him as a potential, business partner to help him with his challenges. And we started talking, and we hit off. We had a 1 hour scheduled on Zoom, and guess what? We didn't talk about business, and we didn't talk much about what needs to be done. We talked about books and articles all the time.
Yeah.
And we rescheduled the call. We have to finish that, business conversation for later to really decide if we want to work together and how can I help him. But I absolutely love how this relationship and how this connection started, because we have so much in common, and we understand that leadership is about learning. And there was something else that I wanted to say here with this theme, but it will come back later.
That's important, because one of the things I asked people whenever I was in a position to hire people, I always wanted people who knew how to build relationships. So I would look at a person's CV and I said, tell me on the last job how many of those people that you still keep in touch with? And that could have been 3 to 4 years ago. And they may say, well, we left on the bad terms, whatever. I don't really keep up with them. I said, okay, let's go back to the next job. How many of those people you still keep in touch with? And if they kind of gave me a negative on that, I was pretty much done, because I'm looking for people that can build relationships, not only from the past, but their whole anchor is building relationships. I have a call next week with a young lady I worked with 20 years ago at IBM. We were just starting out. No, I'm sorry. When I was in the optical business, right out of college, and she and I kind of reconnected, and we have a call set up to just talk. And that's been kind of a pattern that I've used in the important, and it's exactly what you're saying, is this building this relationship. So you had the call got not really sidetracked, but you were talking about other articles and books, but you created the relationship. So the next call comes to the business, because you've already proven,
Yeah, exactly. And it's not only, that we are here to serve, having the serve mindset always helps, but it's a two-way relationship. I need to like my clients. I need to respect them as well in order to be truly dedicated to deliver the highest possible quality to their requests. Just as much as they need to like me, and they need to respect me. So it needs to happen in a natural and genuine way. It's and by being up to date with what's out there in the world, and reading up what that person might be interested in. Different industries, different types of businesses have different interests, and it's our job to always, like you said, read everything, read the headlines, have a general idea about everything, so that you can talk to anybody. So that's what makes this job, tough.
Yeah. Being this entrepreneur, and people say, "Oh my God, I want to do what you do." I say, "Oh, you have no idea what this whole thing is all about." What was the major learning, as we began to close out? What was the major learning from you've had, as I was reading through your CV, and I know all of this stuff? You 14 years, you were at Citibank, Abu Dhabi Investment Council, Hilti, Luther Holdings. What was the major takeaway from that you were able to transition, that you still use today? So we talk about being an entrepreneur, but what can we capture from where we're working now and maybe take it to the so-called next level? Was there a major theme that came through from all of that?
Yes, I think that what I take advantage the most is the ability to kind of shop around within my workshop. I gathered a lot of skills and a lot of knowledge in the 30 years of HR and talent development in major corporations. So I've learned different management techniques and different talent development and training and coaching and developing, successors, all these things that, eventually happen to every organization, are useful, but they look different, and they are applied in entrepreneurial world in a different way. So for me, the major benefit now is to be able to reach out to these old skills and be able to recreate them so that they are useful and updated for the entrepreneurial leaders. I cannot possibly take, copy, and paste it in their organizations. Okay. That would never work. That would never work. But the ability to recreate, to adjust, and tailor make towards their needs is probably something that gives me advantage over people who are 20 years younger and who try to do the same thing without the corporate experience, who are in the market. Because they don't have so many different sources of wisdom, so many skills that made me strong. But I still cannot just grab and fit it in a different world. It still takes tailoring.
I thought of a story when my first job out of college was working for IBM, and my boss came out and worked with me one day in the field as I was knocking on doors selling, and he knew me from just sitting around, having a drink and personality. And when he went out with me, he says, at the end of the day, he says, the guy you are at work is not the guy you were when we were sitting around talking. He said, never be afraid to let your personality come through.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to be the corporate guy, with the features, benefits, cost benefit analysis, and all of this stuff. And I was no relationship, nothing, just talking like that. And he says, never be afraid to let your personality come through. I still remember that to this day. So I bring my full self in every interaction, whether it's telling a joke or whether it's just getting to know a person better. Because I know that if I get over that threshold, we'll do business in the future.
Yeah. However, a tough lesson that I've learned, there is this, theme of authentic leadership, right? Oh my God, if somebody hears it and decides to apply authentic leadership without really truly finding out what it truly means, it can lead to disaster. Okay. Because it doesn't mean brag whatever you feel like saying, use whatever vulgar or stupid language and vocabulary at work, treat everybody in the office like they're your bros. This is not authentic leadership. Okay. It still is leadership, and it still requires certain responsibility, and still requires certain level of communication and certain level of respect for process and for people that work with you. Authenticity doesn't mean using your shortcomings as an excuse and calling it authentic leadership. Mm-hmm. And I've seen some of those authentic leaders who are just turning the lives of their teammates miserable because nobody likes to work for these guys. And then they're surprised that they have a high turnover and that their team doesn't really show engagement or show, passion for their mission. So, be yourself, but be in a respectful leader way. Yeah. Oh, one thing that I also remember that I wanted to say. The leaders, no, I forget it. No, I'm going to talk about it another time. I'm going to write an article about it. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
Because it's a really long theme, and I don't want to brag here.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I think it's important that you mention the authentic, because we hear those. That's a kind of come up as an authentic leader, that buzzword kind of thing. But my takeaway from what the sales manager told me was that I could just feel at ease and just be myself without trying to wear the costume of some corporate person and getting to know the person. The hardest part about being in sales at that time was getting past the receptionist.
Yeah.
And not really creating a relationship. So I wanted to know the next time I came in, she said, "Hey, Ron, how are you? Hold it for a second, I'll take care of it," and that kind of thing. So that was the major obstacle when you were door-to-door selling. And I've always said that the best job, hands down, and this is just my interpretation, is to try sales and understand the selling process, because that's framing, and use that as a stepping stone to do whatever it you want to do. Because regardless of what you do, you got to sell something, you got to market it. And to be able to take that person who's giving you resistance and figure out a way to get around that resistance or get that person more on your side. So to me, it was the best kind of career starting point, a takeoff from using those sales ability to, even to this day, I can still revert back into that. I'm selling. How do I get to this client? I need to get beyond this person to get to the so-called decision maker.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And as much as we're now promoting, reading and educating yourself, just reading about it is not enough, because all these concepts are so easy to grasp and so easy to relate to. When you're reading a book about selling techniques, reading a book about leadership, reading a book about, marketing campaigns on social media, it sounds so easy. And you say, okay, I know it. I got it. Until you try it, until you really put your feet in that water, you really don't know what you're talking about. These concepts are very easy to grasp, but they're very hard to apply, and it takes time to really make them work for you.
Well, in closing, I want to mention a stat I read, and I'm paraphrasing somewhat. The proliferation of cooking shows has gone through the roof for how to cook and how to do all these things, but we're cooking less. So we're using it more as entertainment, but we're not taking that and say, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to get those ingredients and I'm going to try that at home. So that's kind of sinks into exactly what you're saying. So I want to thank you for taking an hour to be with us today.
Pleasure.
As I said, that we go back a long ways and working together, on various things, and it's always a pleasure and wanting you to be a guest here on the show. So thank you so much. I want you to hang on as we begin the process of closing out. So thank you so much.